Hello, hello, hello. This is Dr. Troy.
And I'm Ben-Jamin Toy.
We're broadcasting from the Cohesion Culture headquarters in beautiful Charleston, South Carolina, where even when it rains, the sun still shines.
You're going to hear real-time stories from leaders confessing their most crucial or recent uh-oh experiences in business.
Learn what their uh-oh cost them, steps they took to fix it, and how they planned
to not do that one again.
All right. Welcome, cohesive leaders. We are joined today with Jim Carlo. Dr. Troy is mobile right now. So you get me as the main guy. We're going to ask some questions. It's going to be great. And we're going to start off this episode like we do every episode. Jim, love to learn something about you that's not on your resume or LinkedIn bio, something that you may not share typically. We want to get to know you.
Oh, wow. So not on my LinkedIn bio would be, I don't know. I'm going to take a guess it's not on my LinkedIn bio. At the age of 22, I was elected a city councilman in a small town in New Jersey where I grew up. I was the youngest person ever elected to that role. I was reelected 3 years later, and it was a very interesting experience. But I don't think it's on my LinkedIn resume because I don't go back that far.
What prompted you to want to go into politics at such an early age then?
So I grew up the town was 13,000 people. In high school, we had what we called Junior Mayor Day. And I was sitting in history class, and it was only for seniors, and they held a mock election, and you actually had to run a campaign. And I'm sitting in history class, and the teacher's talking about the junior mayor campaign, and we're going to do this, blah, blah, blah. And anybody in this class want to run for junior mayor? And I did not put my hand up, but the young lady next to me, Tracy Losky, and I still remember her name, she said, "You're going to be mayor, and I'm nominating you." She put her hand up, and she said, "I'm nominating Jim Carlo next to me because he'd be great as mayor." Turned out we had a school election. I won. We took over the town for a day. In doing that, in preparation of doing that, I spent some time at City Hall watching the current mayor and city council interact and do things. And so when it was time to take over the town for the day and during the campaign, I really was probably more fit for the role than my competitors because I took the time to understand what they were doing.
Oh, wow. That is incredible.
That was fun.
Okay, so my only opportunity for political sort of was, I was a nerd in high school. I'm sure you probably couldn't figure that out, but I aligned myself with the kings and queens who were running for election, and I would help them get their votes. So that was my job.
Awesome.
I had an election similar in fourth grade. And I learned about the difference between how people gave treats out and how people treated people. And luckily, the people that treated people well won instead of all the treats. So one guy promised no homework for a month and all that. Things he couldn't deliver on, right? So, it's exciting.
Well, Ben, you know what we say.
I know.
Culture is always built in how you treat people, not the treats you give them.
That's correct. I agree with that as well.
All right, Jim, next round of this to having our audience get to know you and us get to know you, we'd love to know who you are as a person, character traits, behaviors, not roles, not hats you wear, but how would friends define you? How would enemies define you? How would your wife, anything like that? How would that, the behaviors and characteristics be mentioned to describe who Jim is, or how would you aspire to be known as?
So it's pretty open around the people that I work with and consistently have worked for or with. I'm considered an approachable and extremely fair leader.
Yeah, that's right.
Go ahead.
No, he's
okay.
He's somewhere else,
so
yeah.
okay. So and I take that as a compliment. I mean, you don't always get to lead people and have them. I can't say that 100% of the people who have ever worked for me actually liked me, which never bothered me. But as long as they knew that I was consistent and I was consistently fair with every single individual, I'm fine with that.
Awesome. So, okay, outside, what drive that? What drive that fairness desire?
I think what drives that is my focus on integrity and transparency. And, I tell people up front before I hire them, look, I'm very transparent. You'll know how I feel. If I'm not happy with what's going on, you'll know it directly. You won't hear it from others. You'll hear it from me. And it will be consistently the same way that I treat everybody else. And I lead with integrity. To me, integrity is non-negotiable.
Awesome. Would your friends say the same thing? I mean, are you trying to be as fair with all your relationships?
I am no different with my friends than I am with my coworkers. It would be too hard for me and my own DNA and the way I'm wrapped to be artificial or different. And so there's a crazy side to Jim as well. Not crazy, literally crazy, but Jim enjoys to have a good time, even at work. And I think humor is important at work. And I also enjoy that outside of work. And I've been known as an example. My wife hates this. Our neighbors have a band and they play at some of the nightclubs around where we live, and they have quite a following. And the husband and wife are both in the band, and the wife plays the saxophone and the keyboard and etc. And I have no musical talent whatsoever. And one day the wife left the stage and started talking to people and playing the sax in the audience. And for whatever reason, I looked at her husband and I pointed to the keyboard and he nodded yes. I went up on stage and pretended to be playing the keyboard and was lip syncing into the microphone. And they loved it so much, they continue to ask me to do it at shows that they put on because it's just funny. Some guy from the audience walks up on stage and gets in the band. But I have no musical talent whatsoever.
That's hilarious.
Well, let me just say this. This must have been an early preview of Milli Vanilli. I mean, I don't know. Maybe did you precede them or did they precede you? But it sounds like that would be a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. And I actually am one of the few people that I think didn't turn in that CD to get the refund. I don't know why, but I just thought someday that'll be a collector's item.
And if it was good music, it was good music. I mean, so.
Agreed.
It was and entertaining. So let's face it, sometimes entertainment comes in forms. Forms. But in leadership, we don't get to fake it. We don't get to pretend to play the keyboard or lip sync.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, one of the things that to me about humor and leadership is it's not about telling jokes and it's not about making fun of the people that you work with. To me, it's more self-deprecating things that I did that were stupid and funny and I can laugh at now. But I use it to break up the monotony or get people refocused. And so anyway, I think it has its place.
It's good. All right. Now we got to know
Jim,
you.
One of the things that's... Yep, go ahead. Go ahead, Ben.
No, finish, Jim. Or finish, Troy.
There you go.
All right. Now roles. What are some hats you've had? What is your lead up into career that you've done now, or what got you to this point? Let's talk about the different hats you wear as well.
So I wear a couple of different hats today. I am currently a chief sales officer. Previous to this, I was president of a company that my now current company acquired, and they wouldn't let me walk out the door. They made me stay. And so I've worn the president's hat. I've worn a chief sales officer's hat. I've held probably every VP title known to mankind, VP in operations, VP of client success, VP of account management, VP of sales, etc., and including EVP of the same set. So from the time I got out of college, and I'm dating myself now, but 1983, my first job was really being a sales manager. and from sales management got into sales and marketing management, and then continued to grow my career there. And in the early years, I worked for health insurance companies, and then in the late 90s transitioned into the healthcare technology space, and I've been there ever since.
I see being a mayor followed you.
Possibly.
So now it would be good for you to share with our audience. Now, remember, these are emerging leaders, individuals who either are dissatisfied with the level of training and development that they're getting at their current employer, or they may be passed over for promotion with no plan for improvement. And one of the things that we like to do is let people know that they're not alone and that they can learn through mistakes and mishaps. So what is the uh-oh experience that you plan to share with us today?
So I did, in my career, I've had the unfortunate pleasure of having to downsize organizations and teams. And it was something that was never a subject that was ever taught. And I know the first several times I did not do a good job at it. And it resulted in people being disgruntled. It resulted in people not wanting to stay and work with our organization or work with me specifically. And some who took it so personal that they sent some very nasty letters to my home. One of which I got a year ago from somebody who I worked with 10 or 12 years prior, but he still holds it against me for ruining his career. And I always felt that there was a better way to do it, but nobody could tell me how. And so my biggest uh-oh was trying to figure out how to displace people without them hating you and or hating the organization. And it was not easy. It was not easy.
So what were some of the things that you did that you say, oh my gosh, I regret ever doing that? Let's do that before you get into how you fixed it. Let's just talk about what were the things that happened so that folks can get a better feel for where this uh-oh showed up for you.
So the guidance I was given was be firm, be direct, and be short. And basically go, and Ben, I'll use you as an example. You know, we would sit down and I'd have somebody from HR with me and I'd say, Ben, today's your last day. We're eliminating your position. We don't have another opportunity for you. And I'm going to let the person here from HR take over. But if you have questions, they can answer them. But as far as you and I, today will be the last day you and I will have a discussion. And that was absolutely the wrong way to do it. And I did it consistently, probably for 5 or 6 rounds at different opportunities where I had to do the same thing. And I struggled with it each time because I knew there had to be a better way.
Did you consistently get that direction from the different organizations where you worked, or was this just the culture within the one company where you were?
Unfortunately, that was the directive from more than one company, unfortunately.
You know, it likens back to, looking at Jack Welch. You know, the later Jack Welch was so much softer and nicer than the earlier Jack Welch in his leadership journey. And I think that sort of authority-based leadership is something that I'm happy expired, and that today we focus a little bit more on transformational leadership, where we focus on the needs of others before self. And you can still deliver a message like you needed to deliver. You still could have been short, you could have been succinct and direct with what you had to do, but just provide a little bit more of transformation in that transaction.
Totally agree. Totally agree.
What was the cost to you? Like, what did it cost you to go through this process?
It cost, I think it hurt my reputation as a leader, to be honest with you. I think it created a sense that I wasn't approachable, I was a hardliner, and that if you tick Jim off, don't be careful, he might just turn around and just fire you. And I never really did that in my entire career, ever. Just turn around and fire somebody for something that they did. Always, anybody who was let go went through a progressive discipline, process, which I strongly believe in. But I think the people who ended up getting riffed in those one-on-one situations, I think hurt my reputation amongst not necessarily my peer leaders, but certainly from the teams working beneath. And left some people feeling like, I just hope I don't ever have to work for him.
Jim, what you talk about is a classic case of Maslow's theory of hierarchy coming to life. Because when a person feels that either their psychological or physical safety is at risk, then they never get to the point of feeling that they belong. They never get to a point where they have good self-esteem or that they self-actualize. And the reality is, organizations are looking for people who work for them to self-actualize, because that's where the magic happens. That's where the individuals then start doing things like becoming helpful without having someone ask them, being active in problem solving, or vested in not only their future but the company's future, and then being eager to learn, grow, and develop. So I think that is a great lesson that you're bringing forward to really make sure that we explore that. So let's talk a little bit more now about what you've done to make sure that you don't do that again.
So I had back in the early 2000s, I worked for a technology company, healthcare technology company, and I had several departments that reported to me, one of which was a software development team that was responsible for maintaining and enhancing a old green screen, you guys will remember those days, green screen claim processing system. We had developed some Windows-based options for customers, and we made the corporate decision that we were going to eliminate the old green screen product and phase it out. I had 25 people, maybe 26, 20 some people in the department, and I had to deliver the message to them that their job was going away. And I figured I needed a new way to do it. And I talked to my mentors, and they were like, good luck. Nobody had a great way to approach it. And ultimately, I came up with three things. I made three promises to every one of those employees all at the same time. The first thing I promised them was I would give them as much notice as physically possible as to when their job would go away. And we could predict that because we knew that the new claim systems that we were going to roll them onto would take 8 to 12 months to implement. So if somebody was to start implementation today and Ben was going to be the first impacted, he would know today that his job's probably going to go away next June or July. And so he had plenty of opportunity to prepare himself to begin to look for another job. But the first commitment was they would have as much time as I had to be able to know when their job would go away. But I didn't stop there. I made them a second promise. If anybody on that team wanted to learn the new products that we were rolling out and then roll over to those products to support them when it was their time to leave, I would make the training available to them during the work day. Not early morning, not lunchtime, not at night, but during their normal working 8-hour day, I would make the training available to them. But I didn't stop there. I made them a third promise. And my whole goal here was to make sure I had enough people to support the 30-some customers that we had on this product until it was time for us to shut it down, meaning those customers rolled off. So the third promise was, whether you wanted to stay with the company or not, I would personally help you find a job that fit what you do well and that would meet the financial needs of your family, both short-term and long-term. Those three promises I made. The result of this was nobody left before it was time for them to leave. And most of them ended up staying with the company. 2.5 years into this transition, I get a call from HR who wants to come and visit with me. They come in and they sit down. They didn't have an empty box, so I knew they weren't going to exit me out of the building. But they said, we did this employee satisfaction survey 2 months ago, and we want to talk about your software team out in California. And I said, uh-oh. And I said, how bad is it? And they said, well, it's not bad at all. And that's what we can't figure out. You're downsizing them, but that department has the highest satisfaction level of any department in our 20,000 plus population of employees. And we don't understand why they're so happy because their jobs are going away. And I looked at them and I said, I don't know either, but I can tell you what I promised them. And I told them, and HR started scribbling notes and made that process that I did a normal part of their riffing process when they were downsizing departments, and rolled that out to other leaders. So I don't think they named it after me, but surprisingly enough, not only did I get my goal hit, but I got something else out of it that I was never expecting, which was the highest satisfaction in the entire company.
So, Jim, what you just laid out for everyone who's listening is exactly what we try to do for organizations, is get leaders to find ways to infuse the strategic elements of cohesion into their everyday leadership and what they do. And whether you just thought of this intuitively, that this would be a good thing, it really helps us to understand that what you did was you created an environment where people feel needed, trusted, and valued. And that is so important in our ability to influence individuals to help us accomplish. I mean, always we have some sort of level of authority if people report to us. And like your previous example, the uh-oh experience, it was more direct and authoritative and very, quick and abrupt, where this one really took care of the needs of others before self. Truly practice transformational leadership. Congratulations. If nothing else, Ben, you and I should be naming this the Jim effect or something of that nature.
Jim method, yeah. Yeah. It's incredible. And so, how did you get to this 3-step process? Was it, pad and paper? Was it some other insight? Did you seek mentorship? Like, where did you come up with this type of commitment, knowing that this was potentially going to be a lot of work for you, like finding someone else a job, and were you writing checks that you didn't know if you could cash? Like, how did that come about?
So I really wrestled. I did talk to mentors, and many of the mentors that I talked to didn't have a good solution and really just said, if you come up with something, let us know. And I had some very, very good, thoughtful, and experienced mentors. But ultimately, I sat down. I had a week to figure this out before I knew when the meeting was going to take place. And ultimately, I sat down and I finally said, if somebody was going to riff me, what would I want my boss to say? What would I want my boss to say if my position was going away, but in fact, I had delivered value, I was important to the organization, and that the organization really cared about me, the person. And I thought, give me as much time possible as notice. Don't tell me my job's gone tomorrow. Number two, train me to do something else or find me another role in the organization. Or number three, help me find a role even outside, or help me find a role inside the company. But I took it one step further and said I would even help them outside the company. But it was hard to get there, and I didn't know what the reaction was going to be. I didn't have people screaming. I did have people ask a lot of questions as we started down this pathway. But I will tell you, of all the teams I've led, there are people on that team that still reach out to me every year on Boss's Day to still say thank you.
Wow.
Yes.
Transformative principle right there in action. Jim, if you're willing to share this, how far into your career was this time in history?
I'll tell you exactly. um, hold on, I can't do math easy anymore. So I was 20 years into my career.
Okay. So to the listeners, as we're talking to emerging leaders and folks becoming cohesive leaders, this was your process. You'd gone through some of the crap and the learning and everything we talk about where you've made mistakes, and you then found these principles independently and thought about others before yourself at the stage where you would probably call yourself a cohesive leader because belonging, value, and commitment were part of your process to helping folks. So I want to, it's incredible to know there. And that's sometimes where it comes from. We're just hoping that we can help get it to folks earlier in their lives and their careers, right? And as you are, right? Like nobody told you, or they told you bad information. And so this is great things that you can then pass down from now the perspective of listeners. How should they prepare for these types of transitions or mindset when maybe their boss isn't going to be ready for handling it the way you did? Like, how can they handle things differently from maybe what we've seen in the past with going crazy or wanting to blow up on somebody? How can they be prepared to maybe try to get this type of transition happening for them, but from their perspective to lead it?
I think the simplest thing is to put yourself in the person's shoes that you're going to be talking to. And that's what I did. I really said, if I was in that position, what would I want somebody to be saying to me? I wasn't looking at it as being selfish. I was looking at it as what would be the best thing that anybody could say to me that would remove the stress over the fact that I was losing my job. And I think that's what we realized when we were talking with the HR people was I took all the worry away from them. I basically said, I'll retrain you. I'll help you get a job. Even if it's on the outside, they didn't have to go home and say, honey or wife or dear or to, if you're a woman, to your husband, I'm getting ripped in 6 or 9 months and I got to update my resume. They went home and said, hey, we're going to have some changes around here, but my boss has promised to help me. That's a very different message.
And Jim, what you did was a masterclass in not only showing empathy, but also really managing emotional intelligence extremely well in that. And I think that to add to what Ben's question and his direction is, that's great for the leader to be able to say, yes, I'll do this for my employees. But I think for employees who may get caught up in this, what happens is their emotion doesn't give them the opportunity to think, to have clarity. And what I might recommend is that those individuals do the same thing that you did, but do it in reverse. Meet with the leader and ask for those 3 things.
Correct. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. Help me through this process. Help me transition. I know, if they're met with some level of empathy, then they can start that way, right? If it was old Jim, right, former Jim, they may not, that may have fallen on deaf ears, right? You wouldn't have been able to try or help or felt you could, and it took 15 plus years in that industry or in career mode for you to be willing to lay your line out, your head out there, your neck out there as well. So
Yeah, and I'm a firm believer. So I don't believe that leaders are born leaders. I believe that leaders are built intentionally with intentional focus on learning the skills. And I will also admit that learning empathy and learning compassion are 2 of the hardest skills for a leader to learn. But they're 2 of the most important skills that a leader needs.
yeah. I listened to an incredible sermon yesterday talking about the difference between a compass and a map, and it was apropos because our book Becoming a Cohesive Leader talks about, and our logo literally has a compass in it and everything, about having a trail map. And the map has details, and a lot of people take comfort in having that map, but direction, and knowing where you are is based on the compass and where you're going. And so the compass is albeit more important than having the map, but there's fear and non-security in only having the compass, right? You need to kind of know some things, but you can always figure something out with a compass. If you don't know where to start from on the map, it doesn't help you. And so I love that analogy, but you actually were able to paint a roadmap, but they had to figure out, hey, I'm going to go this direction. And you were guiding them to their north at that point. So pretty exciting.
I agree. Thank you.
So, Jim, you've given our listeners a lot of information to take in. How can they connect with you?
So the easiest way to connect with me is one of the following ways. LinkedIn is obviously an easy way, or my website, which is just www.jimcarlo.com. And you can see on the screen how my last name is spelt. So it's just all squeezed together.com. They could sign up for my newsletter there. They can reach out to me there. I will also be launching a self-plug, sorry if I'm going to throw this in, kind of like a leadership class in the next 60 to 90 days. I'm going to offer it in a couple of different ways, but it's going to be based on the framework of what I outline in my book.
Awesome. And for those listening, it's CARLOUGH.
That's jimcarlo.com.
Excellent.
So,
And
Jim, as you prepared for today, what was a question you thought Ben and I were going to ask you that we didn't?
What the question that I thought you would ask is the question that I get most often, which is, why do you put so much emphasis on integrity?
Okay, Jim, so why do you put so much emphasis on integrity?
I think more than ever in our country and world's history, we need integrity more today than we ever have. This isn't a political statement. It is for everyone. If you look at the companies that have gone under or have been indicted for doing wrong things, they lacked integrity. If you don't manage with integrity and operate consistently the same way, you cannot build trust, loyalty, security with the people that you want to lead. They're going to be looking up to you and ensuring that you behave the same way, whether it's a crisis or not a crisis. Because when a crisis does hit, they're going to be looking for you for direction. And operating with integrity and transparency allows you to build that trust level, because if you ever lose that trust level, you have lost that department.
And for those folks who are listening, regarding integrity, great concept of saying integrity is important. Really, the later Jack Welch said that integrity was the ticket to the game. But let's put some behaviors around that. So one of the kinds of projects that Ben and I do is we help organizations define their core values and really not just put them into conceptual words, but into practical application for people. And that means having observable behaviors. And so with that, here are some of the points, and you can chat with me about those or Ben about those if you'd like. But some of the ideas around integrity, to give you more than concept but practicality, is that integrity has to involve the truth. Has to be that people will tell the truth and be able to express the truth. They'll do the truth in kindness, in a way in which they will tell them things they need to hear, not just what they want to hear. They also need to ensure that they do no half-truths, no omissions of information also is important. Integrity. And sometimes when we say integrity, like do the right thing, well, people don't always know the right thing. So this is something that my mom helped me with. She said, Troy, if you are going to cause harm to yourself or someone else, you need to rethink the choice that you're about to make. And then lastly, we look at integrity from the lens of, is it morally, ethically, or legally bound? And what does that mean? And that will help shape the way some people will view integrity. So I love that you brought that up, and that is such an important aspect of leadership. And for us, not only for the leader to do, but for the individuals who are following, it's important for us as well.
Absolutely agree. It's a two-way street. And when the employees see you demonstrating it, they'll start to follow.
That's awesome.
Well, Jim, it's been a pleasure having you on the podcast. We just love it. Thank you so much for bringing, this perspective to our attention and giving us a chance to learn and grow and develop through it. So as we close out all of our Cohesion Culture programs, we do so with this simple mantra: you don't have to know everything.
You just need to be teachable.